Welcome to the OLV Daily Reflection for Friday, October 15th. Today, the Universal Church honors Saint Teresa of Jesus, or Saint Teresa of Avila. She was born on March 28, 1515, in the country of Spain. After a young life of faith and devotion, she discerned at the age of 20 that she was being called to the religious life, and she joined the Carmelite order in the town of Avila. The story of her life is filled actually with many twists and turns, but what ended up being the most significant part of her life was her life of prayer. She, by God's grace, was given extraordinary experiences in prayer that gave her insights that guided her throughout her life. And these insights allowed her to reform the Carmelite communities, but most importantly, she wrote down her insights so that she became the author of many spiritual classics that are still cherished within the church. As a result of these writings and her contributions to theology, St. Teresa of Avila is remembered as one of the great mystics and women religious of the church, and she was eventually made a doctor of the church in 1970 by St. Paul VI, being the first woman to receive this title and honor. The gospel passage chosen by the church today in honor of this great saint comes to us from the 15th chapter of St. John's Gospel. It reads, Jesus said to his disciples, I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine grower. He takes away every branch in me that does not bear fruit, and every one that does he prunes so it bears more fruit. You are already pruned because of the word I spoke to you. Remain in me, as I remain in you. Just as a branch cannot bear fruit on its own unless it remains on the vine, so neither can you unless you remain in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever remains in me and I in him will bear much fruit, because without me you can do nothing. Anyone who does not remain in me will be thrown out like a branch and wither. People will gather them and throw them into a fire, and they will be burned. If you remain in me and my words remain in you, ask for whatever you want and it will be done for you. By this is my Father glorified, that you bear much fruit and become my disciples. Saint Teresa of Avila drew her faith, strength, courage, and love from Christ. She remained on the vine of Christ throughout her life, and as a result, she bore much fruit in her own life, for her Carmelite communities, and for the entire church. And we too, brothers and sisters, can bear much fruit if we remain centered in Jesus Christ throughout our lives. But I do want to talk about the other aspects of today's gospel passage, because they present some challenges that we need to meditate upon. For example, what does Jesus mean when he says that God does pruning on people? For those who are unfamiliar with the process of pruning, it is done to plants, especially vines, so that the plants will grow more produce. If the pruning or the cutting off of branches is done correctly, it has no negative effects on the plants. In fact, pruning, the getting rid of excess branches, allows the plants to thrive. So when it comes to our own lives and this knowledge of pruning, we have to admit that God takes away the things that are not important in our life so that we can focus on the things that are truly more important. Therefore, pruning within our spiritual lives and in our lives in general is truly a blessing and good thing. Now, we do hope that the pruning process in our lives are not painful or hard, but whatever it may look like, we have to remember that God is doing this for our own good. He's doing this so that we can become more faithful disciples. So whatever God has in store for us, we hope and pray that we can accept it and allow it to happen, because He is trying to bring forth more blessings, more fruit in our lives. Another reality that Jesus mentions in today's gospel is the fact that branches can be separated from the vine. Now, for us humans, this means that when we commit a mortal sin, a grave sin, which we know is grave and we still do it, causes sanctifying grace to be lost in our life. The life of God is truly exterminated in our lives. We separate ourselves from the vine. But praise be Jesus Christ, and praise be the love of God, because even if we do this, there is a way back. The sacrament of reconciliation reattaches us to the vine of Jesus Christ, allows grace to flow once again in our lives. And also, brothers and sisters, if we learn from these experiences of mortal sin, and we truly convert our lives from sin, we again will become more faithful. So we make the choice. God does not cut us off from his Son, Jesus Christ. That is something we do of our own choice, our own volition. So in the end, we have choices to make. Do we remain on the vine of Jesus Christ and produce abundant fruit, as did Saint Teresa did? Or do we choose to dwell in our sin and commit even grave sin and separate ourselves from Christ? So we hope and pray that we remain on the vine. And brothers and sisters, even if we don't, there is a way back. And that is something that should give us tremendous amount of hope as we move through this world, striving always to produce more fruit for the kingdom. Saint Teresa of Avila and Our Lady of Victory, pray for us.
Thank you.